I recently graduated barber school and landed my first job at a local barbershop called Tony's. It was an old school barbershop. Most of the clientele were fathers and grandfathers, which I did not mind at all because they were all great tippers. Anyway, the shop was called Tony's, but Tony himself was hardly ever there. He owned a couple of other locations and was in the process of opening up another, so his time was limited. It was a Friday afternoon, and I was the only barber in that day. I just finished up a scissor over comb cut and decided to step outside for a smoke break. I was taking a drag when I noticed a black truck circling the parking lot. It was about the 5th time they drove past the shop. I was curious, wondering if maybe the driver was lost or looking for something, when they pulled up right in front of me. A man got out and walked up towards me. "Is Tony here?" the man asked. He seemed nervous. He was tall with thick black hair. I told the man no, just me here today. Can I help him with anything? The man looked side to side nervously. He was starting to give me an uncomfortable vibe. "No," he said. But what he said next sent a chill down my spine. "You're lucky, kid," he said. "If Tony was here, I would have robbed the place and then shot him dead." He lifted his shirt and revealed a gun. I took a step back. The man's eyes looked unhinged, and before I could react, he went back to his truck and sped off, but not before I could get his license plate number. Shaken up, I called Tony and explained what happened. Tony said that he had a few enemies, but none to this extent. I then called the police and gave them the license plate number. They said they would run the plates and do a checkup on the address on file. The next few days went by as usual, and I was sweeping up the hair from my recent cut when my cell phone rang. It was Tony. He said that the police went to the address from the plates that I gave them. Turns out, it was his ex-business partner, Steve. Steve had left the business to pursue other ideas, but they did not work out. He tried to come back to Tony and split the barbershops 50-50, but Tony declined. He only wanted loyal business partners, Tony explained. But here's where it got worse. Tony went on to explain that the police found hundreds of unregistered weapons in Steve's truck. They even found a note he wrote about killing Tony, killing anyone else in the shop, and then killing himself. The police said that they have him in custody and will proceed with a trial soon. I stood there with my jaw open. Tony sincerely thanked me for getting the plates when I did and reporting it to the police. Never in my wildest dreams would I expect something like this to happen to me. But even in small towns like this, crazy things can happen. I had recently moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. I have an okay 9-to-5 job, but it wasn't fulfilling me. I decided to get my barber's license and open up a barbershop and move all the way across the country. My friends and family all said that I was crazy. I know, but I did not care. I needed more out of life. And despite their criticisms, my business has been doing great. My customers love me, and they always book out 3 to 4 months in advance. Anyway, it was a Friday night. I was sweeping hair, about to close the shop up, when the phone rang. I answered the phone, but there was only silence. Probably the wrong number, I figured, and hung up. I was making sure all my clippers were put away when the phone rang again. I stopped what I was doing and went to answer the phone. Again, silence, no answer. I took a look at the number and it said it was unavailable. That was strange. Almost everyone who called had an actual phone number pop up. I hung up and went to grab my jacket, which had the shop keys in it. I was about to leave and turn the lights off when the phone rang again. I don't know why I did it. I could have just left and went home, but for some reason, I went back to the phone and picked it up. I wish I hadn't. My mouth dropped as a deep-bassed male's voice just started listing off my super personal information. He said my full name, my parents' name, my birthday, high school, college, and even my new address. I asked who the hell this was, but they had hung up. I took a look at the call records, and it said the number was unavailable. I stood there in my shop, stunned and terrified. Whoever it was never called back, and nothing ever came of this. I never figured out who it was, but it still haunts me knowing that someone out there has this information. I was already in a bad mood because of my delayed flight. I was supposed to be in town earlier that afternoon, but actually didn't get into my hotel until 9 p.m. that night. I flew in for a modeling gig that I have, but the only problem is that it's tomorrow morning and I desperately needed a haircut for it. I drove around the small town, looking for any available barbershops that were open this time at night. I was relieved when I saw one in a small shopping center. Its lights were on and the open sign was facing forward. I parked my car and walked in. It was empty. I figured the barber was in the back or in the bathroom, so I sat in the waiting chairs and waited. I was sitting there for about 5 minutes when I heard movement come from the back room. I thought someone was finally coming out, but no one did. I was getting a little impatient at this point. I pulled out my phone to see when this barbershop closed. When I looked at the Google page, I was shocked. It said that the place closed about 3 hours ago, but that was impossible. I'm inside it right now. The open sign is on and so were the lights. I heard a noise coming from the back again, but this time it was louder, like something large falling over. I'm not gonna lie, I was starting to get a little worried when someone finally came out of the back room. But it was not what I expected. It was someone in all black with a hood covering their whole face. A chill shot down my spine. In their right hand, they held a straight blade razor. In the other, a pair of scissors. Both were dripping red. They took a step forward. "Oh shit," I said, and sprinted out the barber shop. I jumped into my car and sped off. A few days go by, and as I'm about to get on my plane and head back home, I saw a local news broadcast about a barber being killed in the shop and the suspect still on the loose. My heart came to a stop. It still terrifies me to this day how close I came to possibly being one of those victims. I just hope one day they catch that son of a bitch and I never return to that town ever again.